I still vividly remember the last day I stepped out of the office gate, the place where I had spent over 30 years of my life. It was a peaceful afternoon. The golden light of sunset filtered through tamarind leaves, which fell gently onto the pavement. I carried an old, worn-out brown briefcase full of memories, walking slowly. The farewell wishes from colleagues and juniors still echoed in my ears. Take care of your health. Let's grab coffee when you're free. I smiled, but my heart felt a bit tight. 30 years of work. It wasn't just dedication. It was a part of my identity. I was used to waking up at 6 a.m., turning on my laptop, planning the day, juggling numbers and decisions. And then, just overnight, it all stopped. On my first day of retirement, I still woke up at 5:30 a.m. out of habit. But instead of rushing to work, I sat on a chair for a long while, staring into the backyard garden. I suddenly felt like a schoolboy on an unexpected day off, overwhelmed by free time. I had no idea what to do next. I used to think retirement would be a kind of freedom, that it would be wonderful to no longer bear countless responsibilities, to rest, to travel, to spend time with family and loved ones. But in reality, the first days of retirement were more like facing myself. I began to realize I had too much idle time. In the morning, after walking around the park near my house, I would return home with a cup of hot tea, turn on the TV, but couldn't focus on any show. All day I would walk in and out of rooms. Time drifted by quietly. My wife quickly noticed the change in me. She encouraged me to try building new habits. So I started cooking, something I had only been good at watching, not doing. I downloaded a phone app to learn a new recipe every day. It turns out, making a tasty dish and receiving a compliment from my wife felt surprisingly good. I also started reading again. I used to buy books and just leave them by my bedside. Now I was excited to open a new page, as if I were exploring another world. Then one day I bumped into an old friend in the neighborhood. He invited me to join the local retirement club. At first I hesitated, but then I gave it a try. I liked it. I got used to it. Then I couldn't go without it. I realized retirement wasn't about being idle. It was about living a different life, slower, more balanced, but still fulfilling. I came to understand that for so many years, I had been living for work, for responsibilities for others. Now, with time truly my own, I ask myself, who am I if I'm no longer an employee, a department head, a busy man? That question kept me awake for many nights. I started writing a journal. The first lines were clumsy, but gradually I learned to listen to myself. I wrote down small things I felt grateful for each day: a clear morning sky, my wife's smile, the chirping birds in the garden, things I used to miss in the rush of life. I then signed up for a painting class. At first I was scared. I didn't know how to draw anything beyond stick figures, but the young teacher encouraged me. The class was cheerful, no one judged anyone. After 3 months, I managed to paint the flower pot in my home using watercolor. It was simple, but it brought me peace. I also started volunteering, teaching children in disadvantaged areas online. I taught math to 6th and 7th graders. In the beginning, I fumbled with Zoom, but then I got used to it. The kids were innocent and curious, calling me online teacher. My heart warmed with every session. I learned that rediscovering yourself doesn't mean finding something big. It means learning to slow down, to listen to your heart, and to share more. Now I still wake up early, not to go to work, but to make a pot of tea, listen to soft music, and write a few lines in my journal. I spend time tending to my plants, chatting with neighbors, going to the market, cooking, and learning something new every day. I feel more alive and connected to myself than ever. One interesting thing is that when we stop rushing, we start feeling more. After a year of retirement, I settled into a lifestyle I call intentional peace. That is, I don't just live slowly, I live with purpose. My wife and I started planning travels, not rush tours. We chose peaceful places: a small homestay in Dalat, a beachfront resort in Quinon, an old friend's home in Buon. No hustle, no packed schedules. Just a morning market stroll, an afternoon reading in the garden, and evening tea with the sound of insects. I also started gardening. Part of the rooftop became a small vegetable garden. I grew greens, spinach, tomatoes, and cucumbers. Each morning, watering the plants, picking bugs, watching the sprouts grow, It felt like nurturing a part of myself. No rush, no stress, just patience and love. On weekends, I often invite my children and grandchildren for meals. Nothing fancy, just veggie soup, braised fish, and pickled eggplants. But full of laughter. Sometimes we bake together, make coffee, or play chess. In those moments, time seems to slow down, stretching out the things that matter most. I also spend time writing. Not for anyone else, just for me. I write about childhood memories, old teachers, misty afternoons in Hanoi. Sometimes essays, sometimes just a few personal lines. But after each session, I feel cleansed and lighthearted. Retirement is no longer an end. It's a beginning. A chance to live more fully, to love more deeply, and to truly be yourself. I know I can't hold on to youth, but I can keep a youthful spirit by constantly learning, connecting, and savoring life in its simplest, most profound forms. Now, when someone asks me, how's retired life? I smile and answer, now I'm truly living. If you're standing at the doorstep of retirement, perhaps you're carrying the same questions I once did. What will I do next? Will it be lonely? Will I feel like I've been left behind? These worries are real, and they are perfectly natural, because we are not just leaving a job. We're stepping away from a lifestyle, an identity, a rhythm we've grown used to. But I've come to realize something important. Retirement doesn't take away your value. It gives you a rare gift, time, and the freedom to shape life the way you want. I'll never forget one moment during a club gathering when a gentleman in his 70s shared his story. He said he started learning to play the John Tron, a traditional Vietnamese string instrument, right after retiring. At first, people teased him, calling him shaky hands and silver hair, still dreaming of being an artist. But he persisted. 3 years later, he performed at his grandson's wedding. When the song Mother's Love filled the air to a round of applause, he cried, not from the emotion of the song, but because he realized he had never felt so truly alive. That story stayed with me, and I began to understand. Growing old is not the end. It's a new journey where you can live more gently, more deeply, and more joyfully if you allow yourself. If I have one message for those preparing for retirement, it is this. Don't be afraid of the quiet, because it's in the quiet that you'll finally hear your own heart. Try what you once dreamed of but never did. Learn to let go of the rushed pace of life and step into a world of simple things. Allow yourself to live for you, fully, tenderly, and peacefully. And then you'll see, as I have seen, life after retirement is not boring at all. It is the most endearing and worth living chapter of one's life.